Blair is also one of the featured speakers at the 2009 Leadership Summit hosted by Bill Hybels at Willow Creek Church, the church that kind of gave birth to the seeker-sensitive movement about 30 years ago. They are also going to host the rock star Bono, who, as you may recall, created the coexist sign. Have you seen those bumper stickers that says coexist? That was first displayed in his 2005 Vertigo tour. I've seen it on the internet. It has this massive big screen, and it says coexist, and the C is in the sign of the Islamic crescent, and the X in this is a Jewish Star of David, and the T is a Christian cross. And then others have added to that the O and the E and the I and the S. The O is now the broken inverted cross and the peace sign. And then the E is the gender symbols for the male and the female. And then the I is the Wicca, pagan, Baha'i symbol. And then the S they've turned into the symbol that's used by Taoism and Confucianism, which is confusingism. Also displayed is in that on that sign at this massive concert is the favorite mantra of the emergent church, the New Age church. And it reads, "Everything you know is wrong." And then you can hear Bono leading the audience in a chant, quote, "Jesus, Jew, Muhammad, all true. Jesus, Jew, Muhammad, all true." And on it goes. And these are men speaking at a Christian leadership conference. Beloved, discernment is rapidly leaving what is ostensibly the Christian church. Satan is preparing the world for the Antichrist. And he will fill this leadership vacuum by sending his son, shall we say. Satan will send the Antichrist, who is the second member of the unholy Trinity, consisting of the dragon, who is Satan, and the beast out of the sea, as we'll read about today, who is the Antichrist, and the beast out of the earth, who is the false prophet. The Antichrist will be a satanically possessed man that will deceive the world, and during the first half of the tribulation, through the help of his false prophets and myriads of demons, the Antichrist will indeed establish a one-world religion, as we will learn more as we go through the book of Revelation. The coexist sign will come to life, shall we say. The Lord calls this religion in Revelation 17, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. And we even go on to read how that this unified religion that is to be tolerant of everyone will become drunk with the blood of the saints. Midway through the tribulation, he will turn against this very system and demand that the world worship him. And we literally see in the prophetic drama of the apocalypse the beast being pitted against the lamb. The Antichrist will be a self-deified politician who will be the seed of the serpent, who will be given power to rule over a 10-nation confederacy and ultimately the world. And this will all be an effort to eventually, completely, once and for all, eradicate the seed of the woman, remember that is Israel, and therefore destroy the Jew and thus thwart the purposes of God in establishing the Messianic kingdom. Beloved, as Judas betrayed Christ, so too the Antichrist will betray Israel. So with that background, we return to the Lord's revelation of the end of the age and his coming glory. And I want you to remember that the sounding of the seventh trumpet back in chapter 11 really sets into motion the final judgments that God is going to pour out upon the world just prior to his return. And the actual details of these judgments are described beginning in chapter 15 through chapter 18. and that chronological narrative of the tribulation will resume. So in chapters 12 through 14, and of course we're in 13 here today, we have a parenthetical section that chronicles Satan's career and certainly that of the Antichrist and the false prophet. And actually, this whole section recapitulates the events of Revelation chapters 6 through 11. So as we come to these 10 verses this morning, we will examine 6 themes that I believe emerge from the text regarding the coming Antichrist. First of all, let's look at his demonic origin. Number 1, verse 1. And he, referring to the dragon, stood on the sand of the seashore. This is symbolic of the nations of the world over which he stands. And we read, and I saw a beast, in the Greek, a therion, which refers to a ferocious and violent creature. And notice this beast is coming up out of the sea. The metaphor of the sea is used in the Old Testament to describe the realm of wickedness, that sphere of Satan, the source even of satanic sea monsters. And the ancients considered the sea to be a symbol of the reservoir of evil, and it's likened to the biblical abyss. In fact, in Revelation 11:7 and 17:8, we see that the beast is literally coming up out of, it says, the abyss, which is that prison that currently incarcerates the most vile demons, and where Satan will eventually be incarcerated during the millennial reign. So John sees this man arising from this wretched penitentiary. The diabolical and desecrating nature of this demon-possessed man can be seen even more clearly when we look at the epithets that we find in Scripture. For example, in Daniel, he is called the little horn, the insolent king, the prince who is to come, the one who makes desolate, the despicable person, the strong-willed king. And in Zechariah, he's described as the worthless shepherd. And Paul describes him in 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 3 as the man of lawlessness and the son of destruction. And then in verse 8, he is described as the lawless one. And of course, here in Revelation, he is called the beast. This man, beloved, will be a charismatic demagogue, brilliant, persuasive, and yet deceptive and deadly. Now, as a footnote here, some have asked me about the nationality of the Antichrist. We can't be dogmatic, but some believe that he will be a Jew. And they will argue based on the preposition anti in front of Christ, which could mean counterfeit. But nowhere in the context do we read that the purpose of the Antichrist is to copy or reflect Christ, but rather he wishes to literally replace him and conquer him. In Revelation 19:19 and Daniel 11:36 through 39, we read that he is going to war against Israel. He is going to war against the Messiah Christ, and certainly that would not support the idea of him trying to counterfeit the Jewish Messiah. Others would argue on the basis of Daniel 11 and verse 37 that he will be a Jew. There we read, and he will not regard the God of his fathers, the King James Version. And the assumption here is that the God of his fathers is a reference to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, therefore the father of the patriarchs, the Jews. Personally, I do not find that compelling because exegetically, this can also be translated the gods, small g, plural, of his fathers. And we also know that the ancient pagans worshipped traditional deities that were passed down to them from their fathers, various gods that represented differing things.